Across the 3 international Valorant leagues for next year, each team is taking different approaches to creating a roster. Some teams are keeping their full roster from last year, like PaperX or DRX. Others are keeping a core of their roster and adding players to create a super team, like Cloud9. Some teams are even building a roster from the ground up, like Carmine Core. These strategies all have their pros and cons, but what if I told you that there's a team in franchising that's taking the worst possible approach? One that the fans hate, makes no real sense, and could genuinely see them placed dead last in Brazil next year. I'm Commend, and today I'll tell you about possibly the worst team in Valorant franchising. Subscribe if you enjoy, and let's do this. The VCT Pacific League is slightly more confusing than both EMEA and the Americas. In EMEA, you've got the most clouted orgs from across the entire region, regardless of whether or not they've been in Tier 1 Valorant already. The Americas League also has instantly recognizable orgs like Cloud9, Sentinels, and Loud. The Pacific League has a complete mix though. Valorant mainstays like PaperX, huge orgs that are moving to APAC like T1 and Gen G, and much smaller teams like Talon Esports. There are already financial imbalances between teams, and we've heard about some shady contracts, issues that don't seem to happen in the other main regions. This can lead to some confusing roster moves and team philosophies. We're seeing T1 pick up 3 different Jet players, and Global Esports look to field a full 10-man roster next year, with Aren from Exa leading the charge as the IGL. For the smaller teams in the region, you'd expect them to drop their current rosters and look for free agent talent in the scene to pick up and create a decent team from. This is what Detonation Gaming have done, knowing that their previous roster wouldn't have been able to play at the level of the International League. And that point brings us to the team who inspired this video, Rex, Regim, Kaon. RRQ are a huge org for mobile games in Asia, with teams in Mobile Legends and Wild Rift. This partnership with Riot and Wild Rift is likely a major reason that they made it into the franchise league. They're also based in Indonesia, giving a chance for the top Indonesian talent to shine. This made fans pretty excited, as there are definitely top Indonesian talents that are good enough to play in the franchise league. Just take a look at the APAC LCQ, where Boom won and went to champions, and Onyx placed second, both Indonesian organisations. Players like Elmimor and Famous stand out on those teams, but all 10 players are excellent and could play for a franchise team. An Indonesian org with a handful of great Indonesian players up for grabs. What could possibly go wrong? Well, just about everything. I haven't mentioned RRQ's previous Valorant roster yet, and that's because previously they weren't really worth talking about. No disrespect to the players at all, but they'd failed to qualify for even the APAC LCQ, placing 9th to 12th in Stage 2, and so you'd expect that going into franchising, the roster would be completely revamped with the Indonesian talents that are available right now, especially due to the fact that RRQ's previous roster was a fully Filipino roster, and not only did the fans want an Indonesian roster instead, but there's already a high-profile Filipino team in franchising, that being Team Secret. It quite literally makes no sense to keep their current roster. But what did I say at the beginning of the video? The Pacific League is really confusing. And so, the team announced their roster, the same roster as before. The only change is the signing of Tebotol from Boom, which is a great signing, but with the rest of the roster being the same, it's not enough to push the team into the top tier of competition. And just look at his announcement post. Please all welcome Tebotol. You better watch out for his 2 signature agents, Viper and Fade. He has never played Fade, not a single time in competitive play. The Indonesian fans aren't happy about this at all, like this Reddit post explains. I'm sure they're solid players, but god, this is such a disappointment as an Indonesian. I love Tebotol, and very happy for him, but Onyx and Boom were clearly the 2 teams right behind Xerxia and PaperX, and if their teams were combined into like Tebotol, Flipstrider, Monya, Elmimor and Famous, that could have been a real contender for APAC. Even if they kept maybe 1 or 2 of their players, like 2GE, I wouldn't have been this mad, but nearly all of them on a roster which I can't even achieve the best roster in their sub-region. Secret has always been better than them, and let alone in all of APAC, F-man, I'm salty about this. And it's not just Indonesians that are confused, pretty much the entire Valorant scene is too.
The tournament to qualify to the APAC LCQ, they came in like 9th.
Yeah, that's pretty abhorrent.
I would explain why I've literally never heard of this team.
Yeah.
We'll see how this roster turns out in Sao Paulo, but it's not looking good. I've been Commend, subscribe if you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.